Only 3 races remain in 2018 Season 1 for your Skip Barber Racing School Championship, and we are going to bring you the first of those 3 races here tonight on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live as these Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars hit Circuit of the Americas on the West layout. See you in a moment. Welcome back here to RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live as qualifying is underway and the coverage begins here from your Skip Barber Series live at Circuit of the Americas. Randy Chinnett, Alvin Yevis, Hugo Louis bringing you all the action. And well, Alvin, it's been a fantastic first 3 quarters of the championship thus far. And we have 3 more fantastic tracks before we end it with Circuit of the Americas West, Montreal, and then Phillip Island. But this is going to be a fantastic one from the home of 10-gallon hats. And this race will absolutely be really interesting because we have been going to some tracks that perhaps suit more this car, but this track in here today is a very wide track. It's perhaps one of the latest Tilcadromes that we have in the world right now. So very interesting, especially that start of the race, considering how wide this track is and how small this car is. Perhaps we can see even 5 wide going into turn number 1.
It's indeed a very, very wide racetrack for these little Skip Barber cars. You could probably fit 6 or 7 wide, and we're going to take a look at your championship point standings thus far. Pretty much for the entirety of the middle of the season, we've been talking about Diogo Francisco and how he's been leading the points. However, lately it's come up to Felipe Bear, who's been doing really, really strong in this series thus far and has taken the points lead by 60 points over Diogo Francisco. Andrew Picario's in second with Justin Titton and Jordi Lopez Jr. rounding out your top 5. And talking about this layout in particular, Alvin, at Circuit of the Americas, this West layout, we saw in real life V8 Supercars have run here, as well as the Pirelli World Challenge has run, I think, once or twice here on this particular layout. Beyond that, I don't think it's used really anywhere else except for maybe track days and such. You sort of shortcut the circuit on the middle of the S's that are famous here at COTA, and then you come on to the last little stretch of the back straightaway. It's not really a back straightaway anymore with the way that it's utilized on this layout, but that little shortcut segment has an interesting kind of triple apex chicane, which is the best way to think about it. That's very, very difficult to get right, very tricky.
You got that long sweeping right-hander that is at the SS, and now you do a quick left. But here's something interesting with these cars. Considering how underpowered and the little downforce these cars have, how much they have to brake going into what is turn number 9 going into the short back straight, it's really minimal. So it's kind of interesting, while not full throttle all the way, kind of interesting how the drivers in here are going to manage up this race today, because we have seen these drivers try to run in packs, and having to diminish that little speed coming into that turn, how will they be able to manage it? Most importantly, if you will find yourself in a fight, how will you defend it?
So still about 20 seconds left in qualifying right now, and cars we have yet to see put in times: Eric Barbaresso, David Bowden, and Ryan Haman couple of those drivers coming through at the end of laps, I believe, here shortly. No, David Bowden's out there running slow. Jacobo Lopez, he might be looking to improve. Currently holds pole with a 0.665. Let's see if he's going to improve. No, that lap's not going to count for him. So got a 1x somewhere along the way. So with that, clock's going to click down to 0. And let's go down your starting grid for round number 10 of the Skippies. With Jacobo Lopez on pole by a couple hundredths over Philippe Labert. We've seen Philippe struggle in qualifying the last few weeks. He's really stepped it here up tonight, though. Jordi Lopez Jr., he's going to round out your top 3 with Justin Tipton on the outside of that second row. Diogo Francisco and Derek Issa, they make up row 3 with Jesus Martin Tamero and Carl Dronke on row 4. Justin Smith and Elliot Huffman, they're on row 5 with Steve Ficacci and Robert Diaz on row 6. Eric Barbaresso and Dave Bowden row 7 with Ryan Hamann on that 8th row all by himself. 15 cars on this racetrack, 16 corners, and we're going to have 13 laps of action. Not a lot of straightaways here, Alvin, so not going to see the draft fest as usual. Only long straight is going to be that front straightaway.
Well, that's kind of interesting because there are not that many straightaways. These cars can pretty much go flat out through most of the track, but it's trying to go flat out. But I think going through that quad apex complex from turn 14 to 16, where we saw that famous Max Verstappen going a bit off track and then getting penalized, I think it will be kind of interesting by if they can go full throttle, but I think they will be at the limit, so it will be really hard to overtake.
But then we have most of the cars on the grid. Just got to wait for the starting lights, and then we'll be going green for 13 laps of action. Jacobo Lopez in command of the field. Philippe Labert, Jordi Lopez, as well as Justin Tipton very close behind those top 4 in qualifying, only separated by 0.2. Things start to get a little bit more spread out as you get further and further down the field. Cars get put into gear, reds begin to come up. And we are green here at Circuit of the Americas, running down this long uphill front straightaway here into corner number 1. 2 car of Philippe Labert going to have a little bit of an overlap over the 1 car of Jacobo Lopez through the hairpin here of the left-hander at turn 1, and everyone is going to be through for the first time, down back the hill and through corner number 2 and into these high-speed S's. 3 wide at the back of the field, but out in front everything single file, and that's how you want it. First time through the S's into corner number 3, corner number 4, corner number 5, and then get ready for the shortcut here in just a couple of moments, as normally they would just keep those cars to the right, but instead they shift over to the left, and here comes that chicane, I was talking about. Only a single file racing can really happen through that shortcutted circuit of the racetrack, Alvin. You're never going to see side by side through there.
Pretty much kind of impossible to see side by side. Now coming here into the breaking point to what's usually the long back straight, but today it's a little bit shorter. Now coming into the stadium complex, and this part, I think this is where the Skip Barber it really feels at home. It is a technical portion of the circuit, and considering how wide the track is, I think this is the part that this car really shines.
So through this infield section, as a lot of people, stadium section, a lot of people call it now, through this long triple or double or however you want to consider it, right-hander toward the end of the lap, and then 2 more corners to go from here. One is a pretty quick left-hand flick, and then the other one's a more tight left-hander off the final corner, is riding on board with Justin Smith in that 8 car as they work themselves now in towards this final corner, and Jacobo Lopez going to have a nice, clean and quiet first lap. They just blend those words together here as they come to the end of lap number 1. So let's see if anyone's going to work the slipstream down this long front straightaway into corner number 1. Philippe Labert is working on Jacobo Lopez. That is going to go a little bit defensive, but not much. And Philippe's going to stay in line as basically one long single file train of cars on the uphill run into turn 1.
And I think for today, it's going to take a big mistake for somebody to get an overtake, because yes, the track is wide and you can do overtakes, but considering how fast the track is for these cars, it'll be really, really hard to try to get an overtake. We are already seeing a 3-car breakaway at the front.
The 3-car breakaway here between Lopez, Labert, and Lopez Jr. Justin Tipton is sort of there, but not particularly close. The other 2 of that top 3 are much, much closer to Jacobo Lopez as they run back down this short chute that contains a bit of the back straightaway and through that hairpin at the end of the lap here as they come now through this long section once again. And talking about that shortcut, Alvin, when I think of Circuit of the Americas, I honestly think there's, on the full layout, you have really 3 really good passing opportunities. You have turn 1, you have the hairpin on the full layout that leads to the back straightaway, and then you have the hairpin at the end of the back straightaway. They're all prime overtaking opportunities. On this west layout, the only really passing opportunity is turn 1. Once you get into this infield section, even in these little cars, the only other place you might even maybe be able to make a pass is maybe through that final corner, but that's only going to happen in these cars because the speeds are so slow relatively.
That is one of the main problems, and now we are seeing something perhaps that we had not seen throughout the whole season, and that is coming out of turn 17, you're seeing the cars running really wide. Yes, you may get an incident point out of that, but considering that it's only a 13 lap race, if you manage to keep your car clean, I think you can run wide pretty much throughout the whole race and not get disqualified at all.
Once again, up the hill in towards corner number 1, and still the entire field going to be single file. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of that to the end of the 13 laps here at Circuit of the Americas. Not a lot of side-by-side racing really capable to be happening here, and especially when you have that slow sector at the end of the lap and then this fast sector they're coming up on now through the S's. It's basically single file here as well to get as much speed as you can. If you go into your 2x2, you're just going to be scrubbing so much speed, and like we've been talking about, this chicane here that bridges the 2 circuits together, pretty much single file as well. So nothing really doing any help for that. Adeco Lopez pushes a little bit wide on the exit there, coming on to the Grand Prix section of the racetrack once again. Then into the stadium section, they're going to come. I think for the most part, Alvin, as far as I can see, everyone's still running where they started. I think the biggest blue movers and shakers we have right now, Justin Smith, I think may have gotten a slowdown at some point. He's lost 5, but besides that, everyone's only really up 1 or 2 spots through the entire field.
And I gotta say, that is definitely surprising considering the nature of this racetrack. Apart from Justin Tipton, which pretty much is the biggest loser, the biggest gainers, you gotta go pretty much middle to the back of the field. Roberto Diaz, he has won 2 positions running in P10 right now, and running in P12, David Bowden, right now he's also earned 2 positions, but it kind of shows you what I was expecting to be a more exciting race given the nature of the track, how wide it is, and how these cars run. It's pretty much become more of a single track parade, trying to look for anybody to get a mistake and try to get a run going.
Down this long front straightaway, once again beating lap number 5 of 13 laps, kicking off pretty quick here. It's a long lap around this place, and because of that, it's not a very high lap count, so this race is going to feel like it gets really down to the wire much more quickly than a race, say, like at Brands Hatch, where it will sometimes put 20-plus laps on the board for these guys. Jordi Lopez Jr. has done a good job reeling in Philippe Hubert in that second spot. He closed very nicely on him on the run up into corner number 1, and he's now lurking very closely to that rear gearbox of the 2-car Philippe Hubert through the S's for everyone once again, then back down into this connecting segment on the racetrack. And still, I think it's just a waiting game, Alvin, because we've seen people struggle with the engines in the past with the slipstream, and I think everyone running like this, you're going to see a lot of these guys not pushing it too hard until the last couple of laps, just trying to manage those temps.
And even running even running at this pace, it is still risky, because we have seen races where even trying to run single file with maybe 2 laps to go, we've seen the engines pop out. We already saw Philippe Hubert right there at the end of the back straight trying to get a peak on the inside. But I think it's more to try to get some fresh air in, because he knows that he needs to keep that engine fresh. Otherwise, it's kind of risky, and I think the last thing that Philippe Hubert wants right now is to risk his points lead.
So down into the penultimate couple corners once again, and I think you're right. Where is Diogo Francisco currently running? He's down in 6th, so Philippe Hubert has a nice little buffer here from what will likely be one of the stronger strength of fields on the week. So he's probably not going to have to worry too much about getting Diogo, or having Diogo come up and overtake him. That said, that 5-car, Alvin, is not very far back. He's only 2.8 seconds off the leader, and only 2.3 seconds behind Philippe Hubert. So if Philippe does make a mistake, be that a spin or even be that potentially getting a slowdown through a segment of this racetrack and having to get on the binders and deal with that penalty, I think Diogo guaranteed to pick up a spot. So Philippe, like you said, he needs to just be patient and kind of understand that if he really wants to win this championship, running second's going to be fine today.
It definitely is, and considering how the point system works, I think Philippe is definitely in a very comfortable position. He doesn't need to win, he just needs to make sure that he gets more points than Diogo Francisco. It doesn't matter if the points that he gets in today, he gets points to kind of erase one of his worst weeks. He just needs just enough points to make sure that he just keeps ahead. And I think right now, running in P2, he has no worries.
And we've been talking about it. We're taking a look at P number 5. This is Derek Issa and Diogo Francisco. Diogo has just picked up that 5th spot on Derek Issa, and that's the first change of position we've seen in quite a while as they work themselves through this tight left-hander and the infield section of the racetrack and then back towards that fast double or triple apex right-hander here nearing the end of the lap. So Diogo doing a good job to move forward, and he's already done a good job here, Alvin, to stretch a gap there over Derek Issa, and he's got about 6 or 7 car lengths, and that shows the pace that 5 car has had and why he was leading this championship for as long as he did. Not sure if he'll be able to reel in that 4 car 4th place runner of Justin Tipton given the number of laps we have left, but considering we're just under halfway, he might just be able to, as Felipe is very tightly tucked under the rear wing of Jacobo Lopez down this front straightaway. We might have our first challenge for the race lead. Felipe's going to look to the outside as they go up the hill in towards corner number 1. Let's see, hard on the brakes for Jacobo Lopez. Can Felipe do it from the long way around? No, he actually can, and that's going to allow Jordi Lopez Jr. to get a fantastic run. Going to take the 2nd spot away for sure. He's running the outside down corner number 2. Not going to be able to maintain the overlap with Jacobo Lopez, but Jordi's going to definitely have the 2nd spot picked up on Felipe Bear. Fantastic move there from Jordi. Very opportunistic to get underneath Felipe Bear, who's trying to be aggressive and take that race lead away.
And we said pretty much from the beginning of the race, it was going to get our mistake to get going, and that is what happened. Felipe Bear, he looked like he had perhaps the best opportunities so far in this race for the lead. He didn't take advantage of it, and well, that allowed Jordi Lopez Jr. to get that position. Now he's running in P2. Will he be able to push Jacobo Lopez and go into a lead? Well, we will have to find out.
So down here through this segment of the racetrack, once again is interesting to see how aggressive will Felipe Bear be trying to get that spot away from Jordi Lopez Jr. Just checking back in with Diogo Francisco. It's a very good lap time from him considering that he was passing Derek Issa on that lap with a 44.8 compared to a 44.4 from Justin Tipton. Pretty much everyone in the 44s among your race leaders, and I think Diogo might just have the opportunity to really reel those drivers in. You see he's way wide through that left-hander, trying to work any speed that he can. Now off the final corner he's going to come. Let's see if he's been able to reel in any of those drivers out in front of him. It's going to be a 44.8 for Justin Tipton. It's a 44.5 for Diogo Francisco. And Alvin, if he can maintain that 0.3 or so per lap, I have a feeling that Diogo can just about reel in the lead pack. I don't know if he'll be right on the rear bumper as Jordi Lopez Jr. is taking the race lead here up into corner number 1. My fault if I'm rambling on about that. Fantastic move from that ERT driver on the run up into the first corner to the inside of Jacobo Lopez. An uncharacteristic mistake from that 1 car.
What Felipe Bear was not able to accomplish, Jordi Lopez Jr. just accomplished, putting the pressure on Jacobo Lopez going into turn number 1, and now he is pretty much in the lead. Now, really interesting how Jacobo Lopez will be able to respond. We are not really used to seeing Jacobo Lopez running in P2, but I think this will show us what Jacobo Lopez is really made of. I'm pretty sure that he will put the pressure on Jordi Lopez Jr., but how will Jordi Lopez Jr. boat under the pressure? That is the question.
So once again, up here through this tight infield section of the racetrack, Diogo's doing his best to keep trying to reel them in, and I'll have to not look at that number of that 5th place running car too much because we just saw that change for the race lead happening while I was rambling on about it. So let's see if I cannot make the same mistake twice. Under the Bud Light Bridge, and then under and running alongside, let's say, that big tower that gives you a fantastic view of the entire circuit through this triple apex right-hander and then up into the last couple of corners. Left-hand flick. Let's see, does anyone really push the track limits here? Not really. A couple people get close to pushing a bit wide, but everyone is fairly nice and, let's say, respectful of the track limits through there. Now back on towards this front straightaway here for the 7th time. It's going to be 5 laps to go here on this section of the racetrack, and here comes Adecobo Lopez trying to make the move anywhere he can. It's going to be 6 laps to go. He looks to the outside on Jordi Lopez Jr. No one's been able to make it stick just yet. Let's see if Ade can make it happen. And Ade did a good job to work the cutback here on the 3 car of Jordi Lopez Jr. Might have a run, but he's going to have to do it the long way around through this second corner. Not going to maintain any overlap. Will he throw it up alongside into the S's? This is uncharacteristic, and no, he's not going to do so. But Alvin, that one car, he found a nice little spot to get back down to the inside and hit that apex late at turn 1 that cut off the 2 car Felipe Bear and made him have to lift out of the throttle. That was a fantastic move there by Adecobo Lopez. Very well timed to get that car down to the apex and, well, cut off that 3rd place car and not make the same mistake that cost Felipe that 2nd spot.
And that is, in a way, the same move that Jordi Lopez Jr. pulled on Adecobo Lopez. So Adecobo Lopez trying to get the same move. So I think he's trying to get just a bit of a feeling how that move may work. And that is one of the characteristics of turn number 1. It is so wide, and on these cars, you can take like 3 or 4 lines, and there is really no one ideal line except for the classic out, in, out. You can still take a late apex, and that's still a very effective line. So Adecobo Lopez, I think, trying to get a bit of a feeling there, but I think Jordi Lopez Jr. will have it covered for sure.
Toward the final corner once again, now coming to 5 laps to go, is down at this front straightaway. Let's see, is Adecobo Lopez going to make it happen? We saw at Laguna Seca last week that Adecobo Lopez left the opening on the inside for a driver, and well, that driver wasn't too aggressive with it. Jordi Lopez Jr. not making that same mistake and got that race lead. So let's see, will Ade throw the move? He's going to look down to the inside, but just sort of feigning the aggressiveness. No, he's actually going to dive down to the inside a little bit. Not going to be able to get there, though, and make it even alongside. So harassing the mirrors here of Jordi Lopez Jr., and that's important here, Alvin, because if you can get that driver a little bit on edge and have him be a little bit anxious, you might be able to get him into making some mistakes, and that's important, especially through this SS section of the racetrack, where I guarantee you these little Formula 2000 Skip Barber cars are not going to respond well if you can push that driver ahead of you into making a mistake and clipping one of those big orange pyramids that you see in the S's to keep everyone running one line through the S's. Those tend to break suspension, and if not, really upset the car through that segment and cost you a lot of time.
And I also have to say that that has been a really interesting portion of this race, that we have seen pretty much all the cars trying to stay away from those yellow sausage curves or the sleeping policeman, depending how you look at them. And one particular sausage curve that people have been trying to avoid, the one at the exit of turn 17. We usually see the big GT cars using as much as they can, but on these cars today, they are really trying to avoid it. The last thing you want on these cars, yes, there is not that much downforce, but every little downforce that you can have, it helps. And the last thing you want on these cars is to lose it altogether.
Keep an eye on Diogo Francisco. He has still maintained a quicker pace than Justin Tipton. Derek Eason's done a good job kind of latching onto the back of him, though, so I don't think he's quite got the pace to get there. It's going to be tight, especially if these front 4 get a little bit aggressive here as we near the end of the race. If these top 4 start fighting, I think we're going to see Diogo have the opportunity, as well as Derek, to latch on to the back of them. But if not, if they just save it for the last lap, don't think we're going to see those two really be able to reel them in. Through corner number 1 for the race leaders once again. No moves being thrown as they went up the hill and back down in towards corner number 2. One of my favorite corners, I actually think, on the iRacing service. That downhill right-hander is so much fun for some reason to me as they work themselves through the S's once again. The S's here always frustrate me, but that's mostly because I'm terrible bad. Through the right-hander, then back into the shortcut chicane as well, and everyone's still just about picture perfect amongst your race leaders. Haven't really lost too many cars in this race. Elliot Huffman and Ryan Haman are the only drivers that are down laps in your current running order. Adecobo Lopez still very close, though, to Jordi, almost making a little bit of a move on that 3 car. And how do you think Ade's going to have to do this here, Alvin? We know that turn 1 is a prime opportunity, but Jordi's done a good job of defending that inside and getting a fantastic run off that final corner. We've only seen Ade really get one opportunity, and besides that, Jordi, if anything, has stretched the margin down that front straightaway rather than let Adecobo Lopez close in.
I really feel that Adecobo Lopez is more like feeling how he can do that overtake at the final lap, because he knows that if he overtakes Jordi Lopez Jr. Right now, Jordi Lopez will return the favor eventually. But Arico Lopez also has to be careful that he doesn't try a move and he risks just way too much, because Felipe Leber, yeah, he lost that position trying to get a move on Arico Lopez, but I'm pretty sure that Felipe Leber right there running in P3, he is not giving up.
Down the front straightaway they come, and Jordi Lopez Jr. defends. Addy's going to look to the outside, and we will have a bit of an overlap. Need to keep an eye on Felipe Leber as well. He's going to take an ultra-wide entry, try to work the cutback, but so does Addy Coba Lopez. Jordi pushes a little bit wide on the exit of 1, and Addy has the overlap up top. Felipe Leber is going to look down to the inside of Addy Coba Lopez through turn 2. Are they going to be wheel-to-wheel through the S's? And yes, they are, and Addy Coba Lopez is going to hold on to that second spot. A little bit of an aggressive move from Addy to be able to clear Felipe Leber out and maintain that optimal racing line through that segment of the racetrack. But Jordi Lopez Jr. looks phenomenal up here out in front, Alvin, just maintaining this race lead.
But this battling has also allowed car number 4, Justin Tipton, to get a lot closer to this battle. So now it's time to keep an eye on Justin Tipton. Yes, he's been running in P4 pretty much throughout the whole race, but definitely right there trying to look for a mistake. He almost tried to take an opportunity. So look for Justin Tipton to perhaps pounce on car number 2 and try to take P3 away from him.
So coming up to this long right-hander once again, Lopez and Lopez have managed to gap a little bit Felipe Leber and Justin Tipton. So Addy Coba Lopez, he might have a slight window of opportunity to get really, really aggressive with Jordi Lopez up into corner number 1. Let's see if he's going to think about making that happen as through that second and final corner they come, and then back down into this final corner, back on towards your front straightaway. Addy Coba Lopez closes on the brakes, but Jordi has a much cleaner line coming out onto this front straightaway. Addy's going to have to work the slipstream, and I don't think he's going to have an opportunity here up into 1, Alvin, as it's going to be 2 laps to go. He's going to have to do it on the white flag lap.
I think that's what Arico Lopez really wants. He wants to wait for the white flag. He tried to make a move. It almost didn't work. It almost tried to get a look on the inside, but Jordi Lopez, getting a good exit coming out of turn number 1, now coming here out of turn number 2. And yes, Randy, I have to agree. This turn is one of my favorites as well. You kind of go full throttle on these cars. It kind of feels like you're not at the limit, but add a little bit more horsepower and it kind of feels like you are right on the edge.
So down now through the tail end of the S's, and well, this is just the calm before the storm, isn't it? They would have had the popsicle sticks from the flagman last time through across the timing beam, and it's going to be the white flag lap here in just a moment. Now in the braking zone at the end of the long back straightaway, if we were on the GP circuit, through that tight 180 or so degree left-hander. It's not quite 180 degrees, but I don't have a protractor on me. Through now this right-hand sector in the stadium section of the racetrack, and well, Addy Coba Lopez is trying to cut the margin down to Jordi Lopez. He's going to throw a move up the inside. What a dive from that one car. That has to be a little bit ill-advised, though, because look how much Felipe Leber has been able to close in. I'm not sure what Addy was thinking there. He had a nice little gap to that that number 2 car of Felipe Leber, and he just, I don't know if that was a mistake or what that deal was, but he tried to make something stick, and now when he goes to make a move on your race leader up into corner number 1, which he surely is going to if he gets a decent run, he's going to have Felipe Leber hounding the back of him, and he might risk not being able to hold on to that race lead through the final corner for the penultimate time. White flag waving in the air, and it's a decent run from Addy Coba Lopez. He should be able to get some form of overlap on the run up in the hill into corner number 1. Grinding up through the gears, and he's not quite got the overlap yet. Jordi Lopez Jr. trying to pick a line. Addy swerving back and forth, trying to harass through corner number 1, and Addy's not going to be able to get it. Jordi holds on to it for now, but where is that move going to have to come from? Down through corner number 2, downhill, flat out. Addy Coba Lopez has a bit of a run. Will he try to force it wheel to wheel into the S's? No, he will not. Through the left, through the right. Left once again, and a little bit looses that one car, and that's going to cost him a bit of speed, and back himself and Felipe Leber and Justin Tipton up through the connecting segment on the racetrack. Now back down towards this braking zone at the end of what is the back straightaway. Felipe Leber has a bit of a run. I think Addy Coba Lopez has burned up those rear tires because he is fighting loose. That I haven't seen that car this loose in so long. Down now through the stadium section of the racetrack. Jordi Lopez Jr. just maintaining this gap any way he can. The only dark horse braking zone is right here, and then maybe into the final corner. Nowhere to do it just yet for Addy. And now once again back down up towards this long double apex right-hander. Jordy continues to maintain a 1 car length advantage over Addy. As through this long right-hander they're going to come. The next left-hander isn't the issue. It's going to be the final one for Jordy Lopez Jr. Through the left. Let's see, can Addy hit it perfect? I think he may have done it. He's going to have, I think, a little bit of an opportunity. Jordy goes somewhat defensive, and that's going to make things difficult on Lopez. Through the final corner, they're going to come, and Addy is going to have a run because Jordy took it tight. Will that number 1 car have the momentum? I don't think so. Jordy Lopez Jr. is going to win here at Circuit of the Americas. What a run from that ERT car.
Fantastic run there by Jordy Lopez Jr. Starting in P3, he pretty much he stood patient, took the opportunity on car number 2, and then took it all in with car number 1. He stood in there, he held on the pressure from Ricardo Lopez and everybody in behind. Fantastic run from him.
Fantastic end of that race indeed, and Jordy Lopez Jr., he did a fantastic job to hold on. A lot of people would have, when Ricardo Lopez threw that move up the inside of the infield section of the stadium section, would have basically ran into Addy and had gotten themselves turned around. But well done by Jordy to just hold his nerve and be nice and cool there. So we'll go down the post-race results here live from round number 10 of the Skip Barber Series at Circuit of the Americas. Jordy Lopez Jr. gets a big win in this one, and it's all Lopez in the top 2 as Ricardo Lopez takes that 2nd spot. Felipe Bear is in 3rd, your championship points leader. Justin Tipton 4th, and Diego Francisco gets at least a decent points haul tonight as he comes home in that 5th spot. Derek Issa in 6th, Roberto Diaz, in 7th, Carl Dronke 8th, Steve Picacci in 9th, and Eric Barbaresso rounds out your top 10, and Dave Bowden in 11th. Justin Smith 12th, Jesus Martin Tamero in 13th, Elliot Huffman 14th, and Ryan Hammond rounds out the 15 cars that took the green flag in this one tonight. Well, Alvin, next week, talked about this racetrack, not really a lot of places to make passes happen. Going into next week, though, we are going to Montreal, and let's just say that I don't think you're going to have any ability to let's say, keep a position on the run down to that chicane. Such a long back straightaway there at Montreal. Pretty much always going to be having a change of position at the lead of any pack, be it the lead pack or a little bit further down. That should be an exciting race at Montreal.
And from a really wide track, we go through a really narrow track. And yes, Randy, it will be really interesting, especially into that back straight, leading into the last chicane, into the Wall of Champions. Really interesting how things will pan out, but well, we will find out next week.
So that is going to do it for us here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live, but get ready and get set because we have a big handful of days of racing action coming at you. Coming this Friday, we of course have Friday Prime Time as well as Friday Night Dirt Night, as well as bringing you the NASCAR iRacing Series Daytona 500 here on RaceSpot TV. And then coming into next week on Tuesday night, we are going to have the opening round of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series on Tuesday from the Daytona International Raceway as well. To watch all of your favorite and the best NASCAR drivers on the iRacing sim, be it Ray Alfala, Bobby Zielinski, Logan Clampett, Ryan Luza, Matt Busa, whoever it might be, watch all of those peak drivers take to the high banks of Daytona in just a few 6 days time, in fact, for the season opener. But regardless, from all of us here at RaceSpot TV, from myself, Randy Chineth, from Alvin Nieves, and from Hugo Louis, thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next time.